Back to order. Let's see, we do have a 10:15 time session, so not too bad here. Planning and building, who's taking that on, Marty? Or?
It is a planning and building item, but we have today Nicholas Martin from the Sierra Business Council regarding participation in the greenhouse gas inventory program that's, I guess, sponsored by the Sierra Nevada Partnership. So if it's the board's pleasure, I'll just go ahead and let him come up and introduce himself and give his presentation.
Very good.
You got it. Thanks. Good morning. Morning. My name is actually Greg Jones. I'm the Vice President with the Sierra Business Council. We're based in Truckee. I'm here with my associate Nick Martin, who's our Program Director for the work that we're going to be talking about and discussing this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to get on the agenda and talk about our program, greenhouse gas emission inventory for the County of Lassen. I just wanted to give you a small overview of the Sierra Business Council. We're an organization based in Truckee, been around for 20 years doing program work with local governments, communities throughout the Sierra Nevada region, ranging from up this way towards Lassen, Modoc counties, all the way down to Inyo and Mono. We haven't done much work lately in Nevada County, or in Lassen County, I'm sorry. We do a series of programs and projects focused around economic, environmental, and community benefits for the regions of the Sierra Nevada. Like I say, up and down from Modoc County down to Inyo and Mono, over to Kern, Madera counties as well. So with that, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what the Sierra Business Council is, celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. I'll introduce Nick Martin, who's our Program Director, and he'll explain what we have on the agenda to discuss today for you.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you. My name is Nick Martin. I'm with the Sierra Business Council. Again, thanks, Chairman and Board, for having us on the agenda today. So the action that we're requesting of the Board is to approve Mr. Egan to sign a participation agreement with the Sierra Business Council to conduct a greenhouse gas inventory. So I'll give you a brief overview of what the inventory is, how it's paid for, and what you can use it for in the future. So greenhouse gas inventory it sets a baseline of the greenhouse gas emissions coming from any activities in the community, the municipal operations, as well as the community at large. And with that baseline inventory, it's in accordance with state legislation that directs local or encourages local governments to assess the greenhouse gas emissions that occur within the boundaries of the jurisdiction and eventually set reduction targets on how the county plans on reducing emissions over time. And this program, it's a PG&E sponsored program, and I realize only a small portion of Lassen County is covered by a Pacific Gas and Electric Company, Gas and Electric. However, this program is still eligible to Lassen County. It's paid for. It's a no-cost program to the county, except for staff time and the assistance of helping collect the data that we need to calculate the emissions. The program is paid for by the California public under ratepayer dollars that are administered by the California Public Utilities Commission. So the money's already been paid in. Lassen County hasn't seen any of this funding yet, at least on the PG&E side. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of bring some of those dollars back that the ratepayers have already been paying into. The public gets charged for many, many years now. And the actual inventory itself takes about 6 months. We'd have it completed by the end of the year. We'd be working with various county staff to help kind of pull records and pull utility bills and data to kind of, for us to take and put into our emissions calculations to develop a report. At the end of it, there's no action that states the county needs to set any kind of reduction target. It's an informational only report that the county can then use to take and use for future planning purposes and to be used as a baseline inventory for the county. So I want to leave it up to you guys, or ask you if you have any questions specifically to the inventory I can help answer, and then again, the action that we are requesting is to authorize the signature of that participation agreement, which is a part of the agenda packet. So any questions?
Who do you report to?
Who do I report to?
Yeah.
My boss, Greg Jones.
No, I mean, your organization, do you report your findings to the state?
No, we do not report it to the state. The way that the program's administered, it's administered by Pacific Gas and Electric Company at the direction of the CPUC. CPUC mandates that investor-owned utilities in the state of California must spend money that's collected from the ratepayers on energy efficiency. So this falls under those energy efficiency suite of programs that the investor-owned utilities administer. So it's not actually reported. You know, this report probably won't make it to the governor's desk, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to get to California state at all. Okay, have you approached, what's Elmwood's take on this? Are they
We haven't worked
supportive
with
of you guys, or no?
We haven't worked with the Municipal Utilities District, to my knowledge.
Well, I noticed in here that the inventory will include the 5 sources of greenhouse gases, including electricity, natural gas, solid waste, water, and wastewater and transportation. All of those greatly affect our community. If, I'm not a carb fan, I'll tell you that right now. And all that stuff is the core of our rural community. And when these things get increased by these GHG allowances, like such as, let's talk about transportation right now. The gas situation is horrific in California. And the additional cost on a gallon of gas from CARB is horrific, and it's gonna get worse. The refineries are talking about pulling out of California. So I'm real reluctant to be involved with anything that has anything to do with CARB or greenhouse gases, period. Yeah, it's just, I think it's out of control.
I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys, if we go to where we're increasing our gas prices by 20 or 30 cents a gallon, that crushes our economy. And we're already crushed by our fuel prices. I don't support this agreement.
If my interpretation, I mean, we're, obviously, we're not here to make the decision on whether or not CARB is contracted to set reduction targets and set programs in place to achieve those reduction targets, because that's already been set at the state level. We can no longer, right, we can no longer change that. What this program offers is a baseline inventory that can be used towards planning for how the county, at your discretion, chooses to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And in that process, you know, the charges that are happening on fuel and in other areas, CARB is going to be the state agency that is involved in deciding how that funding is spent. So if, and it is, you know, our opinion, this is not fact, but it's our opinion because it's not, it hasn't been seen yet, but the money is going to be spent towards mitigating greenhouse gas emissions is going to go towards jurisdictions that have a plan for how that money, or how those emissions can be reduced. So the baseline inventory can be used to develop a future plan, and that plan can be accessed to the very funding that you wouldn't otherwise have access to without developing the plan. So it's kind of, although I understand the concern and the development of the process that CARB is taking, however, you know, there is funding out there, and that funding is going to be accessed by jurisdictions that are going down that path. Otherwise, it most likely will not. You know, in the application process, we believe that there will be certain criteria that will need to be met. Developing inventory and developing a reduction plan is the path to get there.
Possibly, I can maybe help clarify your somewhat your concern, not completely.
Full carbon, you'll get rid of my concern.
Get rid of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're asking for and what we're recommending is a no-cost opportunity for the county to understand a baseline data data gathering source for your greenhouse gas emissions inventory from all of the sources that you mentioned previously. It is a process that the state of California is undergoing. The California Public Utilities Commission has given the authority to the IOUs to assist local governments throughout the state to understand their GHG inventory emissions as a municipal in municipal operations and then community-wide operations, and we are administering those services through PG&E to bring to local governments within a 14-county region of the Sierra Nevada within PG&E's territory. Lassen County is unique because not every piece of the puzzle of electricity use or GHG opportunities are within PG&E's jurisdiction. You have municipal facilities and you have other sources of energy. So it's kind of a unique situation that we were able to kind of ask on behalf of not Lassen County, but say, can we come and offer this opportunity to Lassen County? Because we've done this with 27 of other local jurisdictions from Mariposa County in the south through, well, a 14-county jurisdiction from Mariposa along the western slope up. I think the furthest we've gone is Plumas County for this offering. This reporting, like Nick says, isn't reported to anybody. It's a data information for the county to be used in the future as you look at future opportunities for growth, for transportation planning, for community planning and growth, and how all of that impacts GHG, CEQA events, and that sort of thing. So it helps create a baseline for the county, and it helps you understand where your emissions are occurring currently. We've worked with multiple jurisdictions who've used the data that we've received internally as operational efficiencies, and actually turned a lot of their internal operational efficiencies to actually reduce costs on the back end at the jurisdictional level for helping in the planning processes of certain elements of community building. So this is not something that is a report given to the CPUC. It's a report that stays with the county, and it's your property, and you can do with it what you wish.
And actually, to add to that, is some jurisdictions that we develop inventory for like us to present the final report at a public meeting for supervisors and city council. Some jurisdictions choose not to, and to keep it only at a staff level, so it isn't a public document. That's your discretion.
I will add maybe one more comment to the process here. In the context of the state of California, whether CARB is an issue or not, we don't really want to debate that. I think that there's processes for that. What is in place currently are funding mechanisms through the state of California that are coming from things like a cap and trade process. Right now, in the state's budget for this year is roughly $800 million in funding to local jurisdictions through the cap and trade processes. It's a real dollar amount that's out there on the table at the government, state of California's level. And we, as an organization, a 501c3 based in Truckee, and amongst a number of other peers, believe that that number can and will grow over the years. Those monies typically, although it's not stated yet in the budgets or the mandates for the funding, but more than likely it will go towards projects and programs within state governments that and local governments that have some movement or contribution to what's law AB 32 and SB 375. It is a pot of money out there that has applicability to all local jurisdictions in the state, and there are a number of local governments in the state that are working towards understanding these processes of GHG emissions, energy use, transportation use, how that affects the goals of AB 32 and 375. And what we believe is that more than likely those funds will be directed in the future towards local governments that are at least making steps to advance and understand the processes of the goals of AB 32 and 375. So
Your funding comes from where?
the funding for this particular project, 100% of it comes from PG&E, and PG&E administers the funds through the California Public Utilities Commission. So with the investor, what's that?
It's a public
benefit charge, right? All of the funding through the IOUs, investor-owned utilities. Every ratepayer from PG&E, Southern Cal Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric pay into this public benefit charge, a percentage of everybody's bill. And that money is pooled and then distributed to the rest of the IOUs throughout the state. And those IOUs then are mandated to administer energy efficiency projects, planning assistance, greenhouse gas inventory planning. So that's what this funding, that's where it comes from.
So you guys are contracted by PG&E?
That's correct.
With this money
That's
to
correct.
come out and do these surveys?
That's correct.
I really don't see the benefit to the county. When you talk about AB 32 and PUC commission, my red flag goes up. I don't like either one of them.
Sure.
I have a question. You know, we're paying, on everybody's electric bill is a California Public Benefit charge. How come they're not here to support you if they like you, or to
Tuesday.
PG&E?
Elmud and REA, the two electric providers in our county? I have no idea what they think of you guys and your efforts.
Yeah, PG&E's not even telling me service.
Well, the service
services
through
is
Elmud, sewer
They
service
say
through
it's
Elmud and
Elmud,
REA.
I understand.
No, they,
They provide the power for,
in the north,
But I don't pay my bill to PG&E.
no, you do not. And
But
on every
since-
one of your bills is a California Public Utilities charge.
since a portion of the county is serviced by PG, that's how the collection bill,
Well, yeah, I think Westwood is PG&E.
Westwood and parts of the
Okay. Any more questions, please, people? Jane, did you have a question?
I do. Are these people trying to collect data that will ultimately not allow us to have big automobiles, SUVs, and trucks?
I don't think I can comment to that.
That's what AB 32's doing to us. It's killing our county. It's closed down our mills. It's killing our jobs. We don't have any growth. We don't have tourism because people can't afford gasoline.
And it's gonna get worse.
Eric,
Uh,
you have a question?
Data collection means government control.
Yes, yes it does.
Thank you, Jane. Eric, got a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about who all was served by PG&E, but we got that answered with Westwood and a little bit of
Westwood and Clear
Beaver.
Creek, I think,
And a
maybe.
little bit of Beaver and part of Lassen County where they're getting all served by PG&E. My question to you that you were talking about is, your data information gathering and collection, et cetera. So my question is do you sell that data that you get, or do you plan on selling it, or give it away to other entities? How do you keep that proprietary?
No, sir. This is directed with the assistance of county staff, the data collection process. And ultimately, that report is yours to use for your own, internal, at municipal operations level, internal operations for identifying cost savings. And then we're not selling it. No, there's none of that.
Do you plan on selling it or giving it away?
No, sir. I can promise you that.
But I agree with you, I mean, I think this whole global warming thing and greenhouse inventories, I think the whole thing is a farce, and it's just job creation, et cetera, and I'm not for.
Yeah, we do have an air board, and I see a little overlap here, I'm thinking. And normally the air board deals with what you want to talk about. So,
True.
I have a question.
I guess, yeah, Mr. Bird.
I'm sorry.
Does the agreement contemplate measuring and identifying, what do you call it, GHG, greenhouse gas emissions, for assets that the county possesses alone, or assets that the county possesses and private entities within the county? Are you measuring both government and also, did I miss that?
No, you're correct. Within the inventory, there's two separate sections. One is the municipal operation, so anything that's owned or operated by the county, and then there's the geopolitical boundary of the county. So that's at a aggregated level, not by meter. We don't have access to that data, due, Privacy Act. So we follow, we get the data pretty much as a residential, commercial, and government use.
Okay, Richard,
I just wanted to make one small point that, whether or not this is all hogwash or not is one point, but it may be that future funding sources are dependent upon having some sort of baseline, whether that be grants for who knows what. And it's just a small point to consider. I tend to fall on the side of it's all hogwash, but if this baseline allows for funding for other options, it may have some value.
so does it? Is there any thinking out there that, anything that you are aware of today, any grant funding that we would need this baseline to have for that grant funding?
Yeah, there's the Strategic Growth Council has, I'm not sure what their dollar amount is, but they have for the past 3 years or so planning grant funding that has gone towards municipal planning, community development. That the money has been pretty much focused in metropolitan areas that have already greenhouse gas reduction plans developed.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Iona, be nice.
Yes, Mayor McLean, what good is a report, sir, that you're gathering all this data for the government and local baseline, as you say, for the gas emissions? What good is a report if you're not gonna use it?
Well, the hopes would be, ma'am, that the county would be able to use it for identifying efficiencies.
Well, what I know about climate change is when I hear my governor state that the reason they have their fires down there in LA is due to climate change, I'm really concerned about programs that seem to get their little toe in the door at the county level, and then they go on to something else. But I just say, that you're making a report, and you have a program, you're getting paid for what you're doing, but then don't use it. I can see the benefit of it.
Thank you, Iona, and I agree 100%. I'm just reluctant to trust, and nothing personal with you guys, two very nice gentlemen. I don't trust the CARB, I don't trust the governor, and I heard the same report that this drought and the fire was due to global warming. What a bunch of BS.
Right on.
If you go back in history to 1887, 1888, 1889, the most severe drought ever seen from Mexico to Klamath Falls, this state was covered with dead livestock and wildlife.
Climate change.
And that was before there was any greenhouse gas. It was a disaster, unpredictable. San Joaquin Valley is a desert. Sacramento Valley is a desert. The only reason you see so much growing is man has taken water and used it, that flood water in the winter, and snow melt off, and managed it to grow crops. But back in the early days, that was desert country. Nothing survived. So, again, I like you two guys. You're great guys. But when you talk about carbs, Governor Brown, and greenhouse gases, and all this BS, I have no trust in any of it. And where this information will end up, I do not trust that either. So thank you guys for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
With that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to, we have 11 o'clock, 9:30, but I want to go to page 4, Supervisor file, and we're going to have Danny said he was there. Dan's chief of Workout EMS, we're going to kind of have him head this up and try to explain to you. And I passed out, yes, you take it up here. So hospital preparedness program overview, that you wrote for me here with 3 pages. I did give everybody a copy of that, and it really gives a good background, not just something for the public view. But, we can go into that. Dan, why don't you come up and, I'll let you start off with what NorCal is, you know, real easy and, summary and how we got involved in this and why and all that. Give a little bit.
Good deal. Thanks for having me here today. I think it was here just probably about a month ago. NorCal EMS is an agency that Lassen County has contracted with for well over 30 years now to serve as your local EMS agency. And we do the administrative and regulatory things that counties are delegated to do in California, and in the counties that don't have hundreds of thousands in population, they traditionally will contract with another entity or be a part of another entity to take on those responsibilities. And for doing so, there are state general fund dollars that go to these agencies, so there's a real economy of scale when counties join together in addition to the state funding that comes forward. And we do such things as we approve training programs for EMTs and paramedics, and we give them their either certification or their licensure. And then when they want to use their skills at the fire department or ambulance service, we approve, do an inspection, and have a contract with that ambulance service. We connect that ambulance or fire department with a hospital for medical control. We have a contract with the hospital as well. And then we write all the patient treatment protocols that the EMTs and paramedics and advanced EMTs must follow, as far as the medications that they use and the dosages and so forth. And then we monitor and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's just about as tight as I can boil down the responsibilities that we're doing on behalf of Lassen County and 5 other counties in northeastern California. And those are Glenn, Lassen, Modoc, Plumas, Sierra, and Trinity counties. Total population of those 6 counties is right about 110, 112,000 people. So we are the smallest multiple county agency by far in California. I know that Supervisor Pyle has been keeping you up to speed on the CDPH issue, California Department of Public Health issue. And when I was last here, I think that I had reported that we had gone to a settlement conference with CDPH, and we said against this judgment that they have against us for $282,000, we can pay you $8,000 a year over a long period of time to repay that back. And they said, well, no, we want $50,000 a year is reasonable, and that was well beyond our reach. So our the chairman of our board of directors wrote a letter to the director of the Department of Public Health, Dr. Chapman, and he said, we want to work this out. What you're calling for is beyond what we can do. Here's what we see ourselves being able to do. Who is the individual at CDPH that we can sit down and work with in order to come to a resolution on this? And attached to that letter that went to Dr. Chapman were copies of all the letters. One of the letters was from the Lassen County Board of Supervisors, from the other boards of supervisors. There was a joint letter from the 3 assemblymen that serve our area, and there were letters from some of the health departments and some of the fire departments and ambulance services, and all of them said, we encourage you to find a resolution to this that is satisfactory to CDPH and that is workable for NorCal EMS. So in response to that, late last month, our chairman got a letter from one of the deputy directors that we work with on this project. And they said, well, we propose that you pay us $28,000 I think, $233 a year. So our board that next week was meeting and they reflected on that, and they said, well, we've got $8,000 that we can put towards that. And they discussed a lot of different approaches, but ultimately they said, let's go back to each of the counties and take the difference between the 28,000 and the 8,000 that we would have, and see if the counties